Views and opinions expressed on this show are solely those of the host and guests and do not express the views or opinions of any of their employers or affiliates.
Hi, I'm RiTika Rose. Welcome to Awaken Your Truth, where I bring conscious dialogues and stories that will help you free your mind, heal your life, and embody your power. I hope to shift your perspective and create deeper understanding of yourself and others. Everyone has a story, everyone has a purpose, every experience has a reason. This show is about engaging with the truth of who you are, discovering your personal power and stepping into your authentic self so you can have more compassion and empathy for yourself and everyone around you. It's time for us to dig deep and learn to see ourselves and others with clarity so that we can come together and create a brighter future for humanity. When we free our minds, we can heal our lives, and this is how we build a powerful, transformed world. Awaken Your Truth starts now. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Awaken Your Truth with me, RiTika Rose, where I bring conscious dialogues that free your mind, heal your life, and embody your power. My shows hope and aim to bring a new perspective and shift perspective on often misunderstood topics. My goal is to help change the world and heal the world by bringing important discussions around these topics. It's June, everybody, and it's Pride Month. And so the focus of my shows in June are going to be around Pride awareness. And I'm so excited to bring on my first guest for this month, Mr. Nick Berry, licensed marriage family therapist based out of Los Angeles. And yeah, welcome. And I hope that, the show today, it's really about honoring the choices and helping us to deepen our understanding to our family, friends, and colleagues and, coworkers that are within the LGBTQIA community. So we can, and really the show today hopes to heal any patterns internally and externally in the communities, right? So welcome everybody to Loud and Proud. That's our show today.
Hi, welcome.
Nick is good. Nick and I are going to be discussing the importance of gay visibility in today's society, understanding how one formulates their identity, which is so important, which is going to be the first segment. I'm excited about that as a gay individual, and explaining misconceptions around the gay community in order to develop new language and perspective that can help shift perspectives from the outside world as well as within the community to move towards a direction of true inclusivity and acceptance. So beautiful. So thank you for being here, Nick. And I want to introduce you properly now. I want to give everybody your bio before we jump in to the show here, okay? And so everybody, please take a look at Nick's beautiful banner and contact Nick for any therapy services that you or your loved ones could be seeking at this time. So Nick is a LGBTQIA plus affirming therapist and works primarily with gay men and couples. He has an extensive background treating addictive disorders, severe emotional disorders, as well as acute mental illness in various populations, including children, adolescents, young adults, couples, and families. After experiencing firsthand how difficult it was to navigate through the world as a gay male, he is passionate about helping other gay men and couples identify what it is that keeps them from living an authentic life and having healthy relationships with themselves and others. He explains his passion as helping shift the narrative of the outside world of what it means to be gay through providing opportunities to build insight and awareness within the gay community in order to start having different conversations with new language, hoping to create a new sense of inclusivity and acceptance. Nick is based in Los Angeles, California, and is currently accepting new clients through virtual therapy, California residents only at this point, right? Thank you, everybody, for that, and please contact Nick for any of your therapy needs. So welcome, Nick.
Thank you.
Happy Pride Month.
Thank you. Yeah, it's actually West Hollywood's Pride this weekend, so yeah, I wasn't able to make it, but hopefully next weekend for Gay Pride in LA, be more of a presence. So I'm super excited about that.
Yay!
And yeah, I think that walking through downtown the other day, knowing that Pride was coming up, I think there's just summer also after Memorial Day. I think there's just kind of a different spirit in the air.
Good.
And I think people just in general like to celebrate in LA specifically, I think, and so I think with Gay Pride here, I think it's a fun time, but it's also a time to draw attention to matters and issues that maybe might not get addressed otherwise.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I love that. And I love how you said celebrate, because I come from a really strong belief that we all need to celebrate each other.
Absolutely.
For who we are, without judgment. And so I'd love now to just start the conversation around, we have LGBTQIA+. Okay, so I noticed in this, IA may be new, or at least I noticed it may be new. So if it was new to me, it may be new to our audience members or others that are going to be listening to the show, right? So I know our first segment is going to talk about like the deep importance of developing and discovering your identity as a gay individual. But if you could maybe just go through the LGBTQIA and maybe like explain what each of those are first, just so everybody sort of has an understanding of each of the letters, because I know a couple of them are new, intersex and asexual, and Q being queer or questioning. So I know that like those are some new definitions that have come up. So I'd love for the audience to understand a little bit more about that, if you're okay with that. And so I really hope that through these definitions and then through the further discussion about helping the audience understand the development and the discovery of identity in this community, that it really supports understanding our loved ones, family, friends, and colleagues and coworkers on a deeper level. So go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, for sure. So I think anyone kind of looking at LGBTQIA plus, say that 3 times fast, it's impossible. So I think that right there is an example of slowing down and being very mindful of each component of the alphabet that's in the LGBTQ plus family. So you have lesbian, you have bisexual, you have gay, you have queer questioning, intersex, asexual plus. So
and then T, transgender, right?
How did I forget that? Transgender. And I think that leads me into kind of what I was going to add to that. There are some places that don't acknowledge the T, and I think that that's where we are really trying to move towards, because there is this, focus on transgender rights now. And I think that, when you look at discrimination within the gay community, outside and inside, I think transgender people really do experience a lot of that discrimination, which is unfortunate and it's terrifying. And I think being able to have these types of conversations, facilitating these in order to have new language, share information, share experiences, I think only allows people to really become connected on that human level, because we are relational. So the alphabet has changed, the flag has changed. And I think whenever there's change for anything in general, human beings, we do not like change. And so being able to really look at each component allows people to feel represented. People that might not identify with gay, people that might not identify as queer, people that are intersex, which means that they have sexual identity as both male or female, but they're not fully identifying as either.
Gotcha.
Asexual are people that don't have a sexual attraction to people. So I think when you look at that group of people specifically, I have a couple clients that I work with that do identify as that. They really do now feel accepted. They do feel like there's representation. And I think it gives language in order to make sense of what they're going through, so that they can also communicate with people that they might be getting into relationships with, that they know people that are unfamiliar with asexuality. And it creates a new set of expectations in people's minds. And it minimizes a lot of the stigma and stereotypes of asexuality. So yeah.
That's great. I didn't know that. So that I love that. And I think just as you're speaking, I mean, I think that'll give a comfort to people.
Absolutely.
Like, looking for relationships or maybe feeling judged if they're one or the other, right? And people can understand what it means to be intersexual or asexual. From hopefully those are the right, because those are the 2 new letters I've noticed, so thank you for sharing all of that. And yeah,
really, I think, as as a mental health practitioner, I think that when someone comes in uncertain as to what they're feeling, or kind of knowing that they're feeling something, but not having the word to describe it, when you give them language, like when I give people grief, on grief and grieving, the 5 stages of grief, they read it and they're like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. I have words now to make sense of things. And when
point.
Absolutely.
Like, it just reminds me of a client I had yesterday, and she said, thank you so much, because you gave me words to what I'm feeling.
Yes.
And so everything you're saying is 100%. I love what we do, Nick.
No, I think, when you have that passion for helping shift perspectives, and when you put out the note, like the announcement for guests on your podcast, and then you reached out to me, and then we kind of talked about what the aim of your show is. It fit right in with what my narrative, what I want my practice to really shifting these perspectives in order to create a sense of inclusivity, in order to create a sense of change throughout society, throughout the world, because of kind of what we're going through right now. It's
Absolutely.
so yeah.
Another big thing for me is I really believe we're one human family. So that being said, right, diving into discovering and developing your identity, right?
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit about either your personal experience of coming into your identity of a gay man, any, examples you can share from your therapy practice without obviously keeping confidentiality. But the mental and emotional processes of coming into the identity of not just gay, but LGBTQ, LGBTQIA.
So, I think in today's society, there's definitely more visibility than there has been. I grew up in a community where, it was a rural, agricultural, predominantly Hispanic town. And so the idea of being gay just was not talked about. It was such a small community. There were people that in high school you talked about so-and-so acting a little bit strange, a little bit different, but it was never really addressed because in cultures where you just don't mention it, if you don't talk about it, it doesn't exist. And so, I had been raised in communities. When I moved in high school to a different community, I think that I still wasn't exposed. And when I did start gaining exposure to it, then, I really started questioning my own self, because I definitely felt something different for me. My first gay experience was sitting in Spanish class, and now all of a sudden paying attention to this person that I've never really paid attention to, and kind of really, I think any gay person that really has those moments, or a lot of people will say, oh my gosh, what am I experiencing?
Can you share what those emotions were when you had that first experience?
Yeah. It was a different level of arousal. It was just a different level of emotional excitement. And, you go through life, you're supposed to fit into this box. If you identify as this gender, you're supposed to adhere to these expectations. Mm-hmm. And so I think, I thought that I was attracted to girls, but when I had that moment, I was like, oh my God, I've never had this experience before. And then I kind of just had this moment of wait a second. I think I was just lost in this daze of I think obviously was attracted, but lost in this daze of what is happening right now. And so you snap out of it, and then there's this anxiety, what's happening with me? And it just creates so much inner turmoil that you have to keep it a secret. And so that's in my community. Even in communities where there is gay exposure, there is just a lot of representation, I think there is still that moment of, oh my gosh, am I different? And with messages that we receive from media, from just our communities, our families, I think that the message still is gay is strange, gay is bad, queer is just for people that want to be different. There's so many myths, so many stereotypes that surround being part of the community, that a lot of it is fear-based. And messages that we're receiving currently from people are that we don't deserve rights, that if we do have rights, this will happen. Mm-hmm. We are in a constant state of scarcity and fight or flight, because one day we have rights, which we finally gained access to, and the next, these could be taken away, the blink of an eye. So
just we do need to go into commercial break in a couple of minutes here, but just before we do that, I think it's really important to also understand that once you discovered that about yourself, right? And then everything that you just shared with us about media, society, community, messaging, right? And how that affected you. Can you just share quickly, then what, so now you've discovered this. Now, what did you do next to develop that identity and be okay with yourself in that identity? Before we go into the next topic about coming out, which is a whole different thing, right?
Right.
Yeah. So developing that identity. Yeah.
Yeah. So I went off to college. I still kind of stuffed it inside because I didn't really fully understand it. And I think when people hear someone say, I didn't understand it, we don't even understand what we're feeling. And if we don't even understand the basic fundamental level of attraction because we just don't experience it like other people do. We are now questioning that. And I think that was my experience going through high school. I hid it because I didn't know what I was experiencing. I went to college, and you would think that going to college, going to a liberal arts college, that where there is gay exposure, that you would still feel comfortable disclosing it. But I was still in that state of, I need to gain acceptance. I need to be part of this. And not really still understanding it or wanting to identify as that because of what I had seen, messages, things people had said about gay people. It's just, I think transitioning after college, going into, my early adulthood, there was a lot of secrecy, a lot of concealing. And one thing that I'll touch on later in the show is when there's that concealment or that expectation to conceal or that assumption that you have to conceal, it creates a lot of anxiety, creates a lot of depression. And then you have avenues where there's this, you can release all of that and be accepted. And that sometimes leads into substance use and substance abuse.
Yeah, and we're definitely going to talk about that later in the show because this is a lot of the work that Nick does. But I think now we're going to go to commercial break, but I think it's a great segue into our next segment, which is coming out, right? And I think that when finally, so this is what we're going to talk about is coming out, but why do you need to come out? Why can't you just be? So that's what we're going to talk about. But I think through the coming out process, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's when your identity is solidified.
Yes.
Right. And I think that everything that Nick, and thank you for sharing your personal story with us, Nick, but I think that others listening to the show today can probably identify with everything that you said, everyone within the community, right? So hopefully that was supportive to everybody, knowing that you're not alone. Please remember, the banner will be shown again. Please remember to reach out to Nick for any therapy needs you have. Nick would also like to promote, speaking of support, right? Not having support. So if anyone's needing further support, please reach out to Nick. But also, we'd like to encourage you to visit handles gay.wellness, handle the Unite app, and handle the AKT WeHo.
Yes. So after the break, maybe we can go more to or towards the end of the show. But those are some links that people can go to find resources, to find support, things like that. So we can talk more about that later.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much, Nick. Thank you for listening, everybody. We'll be right back.
Hello, everybody. My name is RiTika Rose, your personal life coach, best-selling author of Tagged You're It, Become the Leader of Your Own Life, and the creator of Aim Higher Personal Success Programs. The Aim Higher programs are developed to help you discover deeper levels of your true self. Do you feel like you've been trained by society, culture, family, to be a certain way and to show up a certain way, but sometimes feel trapped and limited because you really want to show up as your true self? My mission is to help you redefine relationship with yourself, others, and life, and start defining life on your terms. We cannot operate at our full potential if we are not operating from integrity of self. I look forward to a free consultation with you. With gratitude, peace, and blessings. For more information about how to work with me, please visit RiTikaRose.com.
Welcome back to Awaken Your Truth with me, RiTika Rose, where I bring conscious dialogues that free your mind, heal your life, and embody your power. Today, we're talking about Loud and Proud with my colleague, licensed marriage therapist, Nick Berry, based out of Los Angeles. And we just spoke about developing and discovering your identity as a gay individual. And now we're going to jump into when that identity gets solidified, it's usually through the coming out process. Now, this coming out process, at least I feel like all of society, right? It's like, oh, it's become such a term, right, Nick? Like, and so when Nick and I were talking before we came on to record the show today, we were saying, like, Nick, but like, why does anyone even need to come out? Why can't you just be?
Right.
Like, be a human being. So let's talk about that coming out process, right? It's like, you're not any different. You're a human being. You just have a different sexual orientation. So
exactly.
Why do we have to make a thing around that? And I'm hoping that society, as we build more and more awareness, we start to shift that we don't have to wait for someone to say, hey, I'm gay, or, that we just are.
Right. So coming out, I think it's so heavy. Like, it's like this, like, it's like this rite of passage, or this thing that people really have to like know for certain who they are before they come out, because it's going to just answer all of these questions, and then like all the doors will open, and then life will just make sense. And for me, my coming out story, and I look at it, and because there is this need for a coming out from a person that identifies in the community.
Real quick, Nick, while you're talking about this is coming to me, so I do want you to bring this in, if you can, in the segment, is how you support your clients if they're having difficulty in the coming out process, because I think that's really important. It just came to me, so I wanted to say it. So thanks.
Yeah, for sure. So looking at kind of when there is this, this ceremonial like rite of passage that you have, when you don't have that, whether it's disclosed for you without consent, or whether you just, because of this fear, you kind of just slip it in, and then you're like, everybody knows anyway. It's kind of this, you kind of get robbed of that experience. And I think it is an important moment for people, because what that shows is this courage and this strength and this like fundamental understanding that I accept that I am different.
You accept yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And now whoever wants to kind of stay in my life will stay in my life. And so my experience, I didn't come out until I was 28, which when I tell people that, they're like, oh my God, 28. I came out when I was 12, 13. And going back to what we were talking about earlier, I didn't have the need to. Like, I didn't have the need to come out. I was just me. Like, and so when I came out, I was dating someone, my first relationship. And, my mom kept asking me, you're spending a lot of time somewhere. And I said, yeah, I'm hanging out with people. She said, well, I think you have a new friend down there. And I said, yeah. And so she's cutting coupons at the table. This is my coming out story right here. She's cutting coupons at the table. I walk in, and she says to me, so who's your new friend? And here, like, looking back at who's your new friend, like, what's their name is what she said. I go, like, now she knew, right? Obviously. Yeah. And so I said, oh, his name's Armando, and he's my boyfriend. And I walked through her kitchen. Yeah. And I hear the coupon, like the scissors stop. And I turn around and I said, are you okay with that? And she said, I think so. Like, and so that was my coming out story. And then, I had moved to Long Beach, where I really was excited, because Long Beach is known for being a gayborhood, and gayborhoods are these small areas of cities where a lot of gay people congregate, and there's gay bars, there's coffee shops where people can feel accepted, and people can feel like they can be their authentic self without having to worry about who's going to judge. Mm-hmm. And so I thought it was going to be great. I go to Long Beach, and me feeling as though I was raised to be very accepting. I grew up being raised Christian, went to private Christian school, and I moved to Long Beach, and I was not aware of how much I did not know about just humanity, about, I was experiencing being judgmental. I was experiencing fear that I never
yourself were.
Yeah.
Okay. Judgmental of
just like what I was experiencing versus what I was taught. Like behaviors of what people shouldn't do. People shouldn't be so boisterous, so flamboyant in general. And then kind of being like immersed in this, I really think that it was this culture shock that I was not expecting. And I grew up, I made a lot of friends. I worked at a gay bar as the doorman, and I was their first gay doorman, apparently, made a lot of friends that way. But it was, and I also got, I have my experience struggling with substance use.
So this is interesting what you said, Nick, what you experienced versus what you were taught. So what were you taught?
I was taught you are accepting of everybody. You are, you respect everybody, that, I think, you grow up in a small town, a lot of people, there's common values, common beliefs. And so Long Beach and in neighborhoods, I think there's a lot of people that congregate to those areas. So there's a lot of beliefs.
I think what's really important here too is that point you just made, because everyone is raised differently. Everyone has a different journey. Everyone has different experiences, right? You happen to come from an accepting family and maybe an accepting area that you grew up, but others have not. right? And so which probably makes it more difficult for them to just walk through mom's kitchen and say, that's my boyfriend. Are you okay with that? Right? Like, what advice could you give? I know we're going to go into your tips a little later too in the show, but since we're talking about coming out, I'm sure there's so many people that are just having a difficult time, right? About just saying, this is me.
Yeah.
So accepting themselves, but then also saying to their loved ones and their friends or their colleagues, this is me, right? I accept myself. So I'd like for you to accept me for who I am too.
Absolutely. I think what I am really, big on with my clients is be like, safety. Like with, therapists, our number one job is to help ensure safety of our clients, right? So if a client of mine comes in and they're like, I think I might be struggling with my identity, my sexual identity, and they finally come to terms with, okay, I'm gay, or I'm lesbian, or I'm queer, whatever it is that they identify as. Now comes, great, I have this, like, I want to do it. There's this like momentum and this like this excitement for finally like being able to come out. And my thing is, don't get so comfortable with that you don't take into consideration if there might be any safety concerns.
Right.
And I think that some people, they go into these areas and they just are themselves. And so there's still so much judgment and prejudice and discrimination and violence that's being perpetrated on gay people or people of the community, that sometimes people put themselves in positions that they wouldn't even expect. Like they go to Long Beach, for example, let's say they come from a smaller area in California, more inland. And so they go to Long Beach, they're excited. They think, oh, this is Long Beach, it's gay friendly. But yet they walk down the street to get to the bar and possibly, getting jumped, being being gay bashed. And so being mindful of your surroundings, being mindful of who you tell, if you have a friend that you're not sure is accepting, then ask yourself, why do I feel I need to tell this person? If they aren't ready for me to tell them, what will that do to my relationship with them? Are there people that I can talk to, form relationships with, and maybe then I can learn how to talk to those people that I'm not sure if they'll accept me or not.
Nick, what do you think needs to happen in society? I know I'm throwing a really different question at you here, but what do you think needs to happen in society so we can build acceptance? I mean, yes, we have awareness, right? Okay, so we have Pride Awareness Month. We're doing these shows, there are parades, there are different events and activities going on, right? But what really needs to happen here? Because I don't feel, I mean, it's very sad to hear. And I mean, and it's the truth, right? There is safety concerns. And it's very sad that there have to be these safety concerns.
Absolutely.
Right? Around just being who you are.
Right. Yeah, I mean, now I think in general, there's safety concerns related to whatever,
So to so many things. Yeah. But for this, for the particular topic we have in hand today, like what can we do as society? What do we need to do as a society to just build more acceptance?
I think it starts within the community. I think, there's this stigma, there's these stereotypes of the gay community. And I am all about, I've participated in a lot of gay pride events, things like that. And I think there is this stigma still of, why do they have to be so blah, blah, blah? Why do they have to be this? Why do they have to be that? Why do they need their parade? Why do they need a month? And I think that really invalidates and minimizes a lot of people's experiences. Like we are this group of people that has really fought really hard for these rights, and we finally attained them. And we want to celebrate that. We want to celebrate the wins. We want to celebrate acceptance, love, where everybody's invited. But I think because of still misconceptions about the gay community from outside as well as inside the gay community, excessive drug use, alcohol use, just really risky behavior. I think it still sends that message that, well, here's that group of people that they're doing exactly what they're supposed what we think they're doing, right?
And I apologize because you did mention earlier, and I asked you questions. I didn't mean to cut you off, but you did say that you had substance abuse issues too in your past. And in our next segment, we are going to be talking about the expected behaviors of gay individuals and why gay individuals behave the way they do, which this is a big area that Nick works in within his practice. But that being said, I think, again, it's just like a perfect segue into what we're going to talk about in after the commercial break is when you have these awareness events, part of what you do is really maybe shifting the behaviors of the gay community and how they're showing up, right? Instead of showing up a certain how they're expected, how they think they're expected to behave, right? Versus just being, right? I think that's a really important point you made, right? And like what you and I talked about even before the show, why can't you just be, just be? And then if you just be, people will just start accepting you, because now what they see is, like you said, all the extra stuff that maybe doesn't need to be there, right? And you had mentioned to me too in our previous conversations about the gay community actually not feeling like they can be their authentic selves when heterosexuals walk into an establishment,
Yeah,
right?
I would,
Which actually, when you told me, I was really shocked, right? I didn't realize that, but when you dove deeper into that with me, I was like, oh, that's interesting. And like, I would, as a heterosexual person, I would never want my gay friends or colleagues or family members I know that to ever feel like they can't be themselves when we walk into a room and they have to show up a certain way. So I think that when we come back from commercial break, we're talking about that, and these behaviors are really going to be beneficial for the audience to hear, right? And then also, your talking points to how to help the gay community shift these behaviors.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much, Nick. Thank you everybody for listening, and we'll be right back. Tagged Your It takes you on a journey of 8 life mastery skills that will help you step into your power and become the leader of your own life. Inspiring, real, insightful, and therapeutic, the pages help you discover deeper awareness, understanding, and relationship with yourself and others. Give yourself permission to live life through your authentic self. These steps can be used in your personal, professional, and social life. Order your copy now on Amazon.
Hello, everybody. My name is RiTika Rose, your personal life coach, best-selling author of Tagged Your It, Become the Leader of Your Own Life, and the creator of Aim Higher Personal Success Programs. The Aim Higher programs are developed to help you discover deeper levels of your true self. Do you feel like you've been trained by society, culture, family, to be a certain way and to show up a certain way, but sometimes feel trapped and limited because you really want to show up as your true self? My mission is to help you redefine relationship with yourself, others, and life, and start defining life on your terms. We cannot operate at our full potential if we are not operating from integrity of self. I look forward to a free consultation with you. With gratitude, peace, and blessings.
For more information about how to work with me, please visit RiTikaRose.com. Welcome back to Awaken Your Truth with me, RiTika Rose, and my special guest, Nick Berry, licensed marriage family therapist based out of Los Angeles, who primarily works with gay individuals and couples. Welcome back to our show, and we hope that the information we are giving you today helps to really bring a deeper awareness around your gay friends, family, and colleagues, and is helping to shift perspective in some way. So in this segment, or in a deep way, I should say, so we can create more acceptance, compassion, and empathy for this community as well, right? So as we come back into the show, we want to talk about, a big area that Nick focuses on in his practice is the behavior of great individuals, and helping his clients understand their behaviors and their patterns and how they're showing up, and how they show up, how it creates an expectation of behaviors from outside society, and then maybe the reaction or the response they're getting back from society, right, within themselves. So and then what, and then Nick's also going to talk about, what behavior change can be facilitated to sort of shift how society sees the gay community or gay individuals, right? So Nick, I'm just going to go ahead and give it over to you and share with us, what you've seen and what you've experienced.
Thank you. I think, when you think about pride, there's just so many different perceptions and just like experiences that people have. From the outside community, if people are supporting, if people are inclusive, they go and they celebrate also, they participate, which is fantastic. And then you have the people that will make remarks like, why do they have to be this, or why do they have to be that, and there are a lot of beliefs.
Or they love them for being this or that.
Exactly. Right. And then you look at just kind of within the community, there's, the stereotypes are excessive alcohol use, drug use, hypersexualization, just being very, very flamboyant, very free-willed. And, when you don't understand something, if you don't feel you can ask and be curious, then there's a sense of judgment that gets cast over it. And I think looking at just my experience within the gay community, you walk into a gay bar, you think it's going to be accepting, everybody's going to talk to you, but as a lot of people that I talk to in general, clients that I've had, I put out, I ask questions on Instagram, what people would want me to kind of mention on this podcast. A number one thing that people, like one of the most common responses was, understand that the gay community is not as accepting as they would like to think they are.
You mean within the community?
Exactly. I have about 4 people that probably responded, and they said, you know what? I don't feel like I belong. I don't feel like I'm accepted. I don't feel I fit into a certain group. I feel I'm supposed to be a specific look. I feel like I'm supposed to have this type of body, this type of personality, this type of job. And it's I think anybody that is part of the community has experienced something like that at some point. And there's this expectation that I have to be this, or I have to be this, or I have to do this, or act this way. And for people that come from a community where there isn't acceptance, where they finally get the courage to come out, formulate their identity, they walk into these environments thinking they're going to be accepted, and there's different factions within our community as well. We have bears, we have jocks, we have cub, like twinks, all of this. And so within those communities, there are specific, like, not guidelines, but there are different traits that a lot of them have in common. And so you walk in there, and so someone not even knowing who they are, just knowing that I'm gay, and now I was confronted with, oh my gosh, what do I do? Which group do I go to? Who do I talk to? And
it comes back to, who do I identify with?
Yeah, exactly.
And like, what is my identity now?
Exactly. And so let's say they walk in, someone that identifies as this befriends them. Now they feel that that's their connection. So now they might shift their identity to fit into that, which might not be their identity at all. And now if you don't engage in behaviors that don't align with who you are as a person, because you just either don't know them, those values, or you just have values that are aligned somewhere else, but you feel the need for acceptance, so you have to fit into this group. Now that might lead to excessive alcohol consumption, drug use, engaging in sexual activity that's risky behavior. So there's so many things that at the root of it is this underlying sense of inadequacy, underlying sense of rejection. We're not good enough. Gay people have experienced rejection, abandonment from their family members because they're different. And there's that wound that is, if it is not identified through therapy, through support groups, through whatever, that wound still sits there. And we seek out, in general, human beings, if they have a rupture in their childhood, they seek out similar patterns in people moving forward to help repair that wound. And so I think you see there's a lot of, in the gay community, there's jokes when people start dating people, they move in really fast. They go through boyfriend after boyfriend after boyfriend after boyfriend. And I've been one of those people where I'd gone through relationship, not understanding who I was or what that wound was, knowing that I have experienced a father who was in and out, not because of who I was gay, but because he just wasn't able to be what I needed him to be.
Right.
And so I think looking at my experience, if I've struggled going through the world, having insight, having awareness, because I'm a therapist, because I've done my work, still have work to do. I can't even imagine what it's like for somebody that hasn't been able to do that work, what they're experiencing.
Right. And that's why the work you do is so important. So for those that are listening, if you have any loved ones are going through any of these challenges, or you yourself are going through these challenges, please reach out to Nick. Just even all the issues you were saying about, substance abuse, et cetera, but the anxiety and the depression that comes from showing up or behaving in a certain way that's not authentic to you. Right. I'm sure a lot of that comes up in your practice as well. Absolutely. Because they just want to be validated. When people want to be validated, they're going to do things that don't really align with them, like you said. Sure. And then that anxiety and depression leads to all of these other behaviors.
Exactly.
Right? The substance, the drinking, the drugs, the excessive sex, et cetera. Taking risks and not being safe, et cetera. So what do you want to tell your community? to say, hey, let's start accepting each other more. And so when we're talking about facilitating change in behavior, right? What do you want to share around that? How can the community facilitate a change in behavior so your community does accept everybody inside, regardless of what pocket they're part of, right?
Right. I think the number one thing that I want to tell people is, ask yourself, how aware are you of your behavior? How aware are you of how you show up in the world? Do you think that you are as accepting as you are? Do you think that, what work have you done? Have you done the work? Who do you talk to? Who do you engage with? And I think looking at, if you can ask yourself, if you step back and say, well, I'm a very accepting person. My group of friends is a very diverse group of friends. And you take a step back and you kind of just observe, you detach a little bit and start just really observing your interactions, your group of friends' interactions with people. And you start really kind of seeing things that just don't really seem to add up or might not really align with what the stated mission of the group or activity is. Maybe then that's an opportunity to say, wow, you know what am I missing? What self-awareness do I need to start getting? And what insight do I need to develop to really start showing up differently in the world? Do I accept everybody? Am I embracing change? Am I being vulnerable? Am I kind of elevating myself spiritually or through my religion, things like that? And so there's just a lot of questions I think that people should start asking themselves.
Yeah, I think something that I talk about a lot in my practice, right? Or when I talk about awakening your truth and coming into your authentic self, right? It's the more you come into your truth, the more you step into your authenticity, the lonelier it can get,
Absolutely.
but you're going to feel more freedom, right? Absolutely. Because the right people are going to be in your life versus maybe the ones that don't align with you or don't belong there, right? Because they don't support you and they don't validate you the way that you need to be validated.
Absolutely.
Right. But once you come into your truth, once you awaken your truth, you fully accept yourself and know yourself. And then you know your values and your boundaries. Yes. Once you do the work, though, the work is very important to understand what that is. Absolutely. And then you can move forward in your life with the right people coming in.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, if there are people doing that and they're lonely and doing the work, they're releasing people that don't kind of align with them anymore. The people, like, search out those people, the people that are doing the work. Maybe they're going to coffee shops, maybe they're going to bookstores, maybe they're doing this, instead of maybe going to the bar every night. I'm not trying to
right. Yeah.
But
you're right. Yeah.
Then you're going to encounter people of like-minded values and belief systems. So it's great.
Absolutely. It's so important because that's where you're going to meet your people. I mean, I always say too, like, we have certain groups of people that serve different aspects of our life. Yes. At least that's what I think. Right. And so just know who those people are.
Absolutely.
Right. You're going to have those people that may not necessarily support you emotionally the way you need it, but you enjoy doing different activities like hiking or, traveling or whatever it is. But then you have this other group of people that that is your deeper connected group of people where you can, be vulnerable and express yourself and share things. And you have that support there. So I think there's those things for the audience to consider as well. Right.
Absolutely.
But again, it is about doing the work to get there and understand what that is. So again, if you're watching and you're listening and you yourself or any of your loved ones feel like they would benefit from Nick's therapy services, please reach out to him. All of his information is on the banner that's coming up. And we thank you for listening, and we'll be right back after commercial break, where Nick is actually going to be sharing some mental health tips and how he can support you into coming into your authentic self and really stepping into your true identity. Thank you so much. We'll be right back. Tagged Your It takes you on a journey of 8 life mastery skills that will help you step into your power and become the leader of your own life. Inspiring, real, insightful, and therapeutic, the pages help you discover deeper awareness, understanding, and relationship with yourself and others. Give yourself permission to live life through your authentic self. These steps can be used in your personal, professional, and social life. Order your copy now on Amazon. Welcome back to Awaken Your Truth with me, RiTika Rose, and my special guest Nick Berry, licensed marriage family therapist. We do want to let you know of a free giveaway, free 60-minute consultation giveaway that Nick is offering it to the audience today. So please submit your name and a phone number to Nick's email, naberrylmft@gmail.com. Again, that email address and his phone number is on the banner that you've seen throughout the show. So please submit your name and telephone number to his email address between today, June 9th, and through Thursday, June 16th, for a free 60-minute consultation of how he can support you personally or any of your loved ones or colleagues that you feel may benefit from Nick's therapy services. That being said, we're going to jump into our last segment here where Nick is going to share some really important mental health statistics within the gay community for the audience to understand, so we can start shifting some of this. So I'm hoping that these statistics will help our society understand what's really going on within, the LGBTQIA community. So we can, guys, really start showing more compassion and empathy for all of our brothers and sisters. And then he's going to start then after that, he will share some of his own mental health tips for the gay community or the LGBTQIA community. So go ahead, Nick, please share.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think, if I share some of these and it just resonates with some people and put light bulb goes off, I think, this is the purpose of this, right? And these stats are what is responsible for a lot of the excessive drug use, alcohol use, why we celebrate, why we're so loud and proud, because, these are what we experience. So gay men are 4 to 5 times more prone to mental illness than straight men. Gay men are more likely to report suicidal ideation, plans, and attempts in their lifetime compared to straight men. 1 in 6 gay men have made one suicide attempt in their lifetime. Most common causes for that are depression related to prejudice events, expectations of rejection and discrimination, concealment of identity, and internalized homophobia. Gay men display higher rates of substance abuse. Minorities encounter more system barriers and stigma, which increase the risk of substance use disorder. Couples face additional stressors, including stress related to disclosing relationships to family, concerns for being safe in public spaces, feeling judged as a same-sex couple, and stress related to unequal legal rights, such as adoption, marriage, etc. When we look at kind of specific disorders, gay men are approximately 44% more likely to have a mood disorder or report having a mood disorder versus 20% in heterosexual males. With phobias, specific phobias, 25% of gay men report having a specific phobia versus 10% of heterosexual males. And mania, which is a symptom of bipolar, or an aspect of bipolar, 8% of gay men report versus 5% of heterosexual men.
Wow, thank you for that.
That one.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is from the American Psychiatric Association. So I think, that hopefully helps give more understanding as to why we engage and, we go out to the bars and we might indulge a little bit more. We have these relationships that are a little bit unhealthy. And so hopefully if people understand that more, maybe that will give more clarity to a loved one or a coworker or just a person on the street in general, maybe to help shift from judgment. Not that judgment is a bad thing. We judge in general to kind of classify and make sense of things, from judgment to compassion. So
absolutely. Because every single human being, doesn't matter who you are, wants to feel loved and accepted.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's like one of our core emotions that everybody will love is like the biggest emotion that people want to feel and have in their lives, right? So what can we do as a society, everybody listening, to bring in more acceptance, compassion, and empathy and love to our fellow human beings?
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, it's so simple, right?
It is simple.
It's so simple,
but challenging at the same time. So share with us, Nick, how you support the gay community in general within your therapy practice. Any specifics that you'd like to share with us, like your support services that you have available, any psychoeducation you do want to share around any, trauma or the mood disorders or any of the other
so, I mean, services that are available, I mean, obviously therapy. It's huge. If you finally are able to finally get up and say, you know what, I'm going to go to therapy, or just ask yourself, something isn't right. I don't feel like I'm living my full, authentic self, and I'm not thriving. I think that's a huge thing.
I do want to mention something around therapy though, Nick. Sorry to interrupt you, because I think there's also a bias around therapy. And I talked about this in my mental health shows in May. So if you haven't watched those, please go back and watch those, because the bias around getting therapy is huge too, right? And the judgment around getting therapy is huge. So remember, guys, therapy is a safe place for you to go talk to a professional. There's nothing wrong with you going to seek out someone to speak with, especially someone that you feel like you align with. And so for those listening to the show today, I mean, Nick is very specific in who he works with and what he's doing. So please, if you do align with Nick and you want to further understand how he can support you, please do reach out. There is no judgment or hopefully no stigma anymore around just talking to someone, having a safe place to talk to someone that is actually non-judgmental and very objective. Because oftentimes family and friends are not our objective ear. Right. And because they do have their own judgments, they can't fully actively listen to us in a compassionate, empathetic way, where as your therapists or your coaches can.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
Nick, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, therapy can be very terrifying. It can be super, you never know what's going to come up. You've heard stories, horror stories, friends have had bad therapy experiences. And I think, the giveaway that you announced at the beginning of the segment, some people would be like, well, that's like a free consultation. You do it all the time. But no, consultations are usually like 15 to 30 minutes. What my aim for that initial consultation is just an environment or an opportunity that isn't going to be therapy, that is you coming in and talking to me about kind of what it is you're experiencing, kind of what strategies I would recommend, what kind of direction I would point you. And then if you want to work with me, great. But it's a consultation in general is just you telling the therapist what you're experiencing. You go through family history a little bit, you go through what your relationships currently are like, what your behavior is like. And the therapist tells you, hey, well, what I think is happening is this, this, and this. I could help you with this. So hopefully that kind of eases people's minds as to what that initial consultation looks like, which is the gateway to therapy. Mm-hmm. So other things that I would recommend are like therapist directory sites. I'm part of a directory site called Frame Therapy. It's a therapist matching platform. My Wellbeing that we're part of is a therapist matching platform. So you go through and it makes it so easy to kind of just really quickly answer a bunch of questions as to what you're looking for and what you want in therapy, and they'll match you with people. It takes away a lot of the stress, which is so overwhelming. Even for me as a therapist, when I'm looking for a therapist for my needs in the past, it's been just like me as a therapist, I know what to ask, I know what to look for. And so there's just so many options. So hopefully that helps relieve some of the stress. Other options that are
also a way for your potential patients or clients to get to know you, right? Because something we talk about too is, I mean, I've shared this in my other shows, and I always tell people, like, do multiple consultations, to see who's a good fit for you. Absolutely. You want to make sure the person that you're going to work with, you feel comfortable, and you can trust. Trust obviously comes with time, but I mean, your gut will tell you in the beginning, is this the right person for me to work with or not? Yes,
absolutely. Yeah. And like you said, don't just stop at one. And if you pick one and you're like, I don't know how that felt, trust, choose a few, like interview. That's your opportunity to interview the therapist and see how they can help you. So,
and I think what's really important about this show too, Nick, and what you and I have shared is, the beginning of the show, you shared your personal experience. And I think that our personal experiences, well, I know that our personal experiences really create our therapeutic practices and why we do what we do and who we serve, right? Absolutely. And so for those listening to the show, if know that Nick has also, if you're experiencing similar experiences that Nick shared with us in the beginning of the show about developing and discovering your identity, if you aligned with what he was saying and you're like, that's me, that's either what I'm going through now or that's what I went through, but I'm still not fully there, know that Nick gets that and understands that, right? So, I mean, please reach out and get the support that you need. Nick, in the last few minutes, I would also like you to talk about the 3 different handles that you wanted to promote and what's happening during this month for Pride Awareness. Yeah.
So I am actually partnering with gay.wellness, which is a directory for wellness practitioners, massage therapists, coaches, yoga instructors, therapists, which there's, adding more. and also Unite app, which is a directory as well. It's in its starting phases, but they're hoping to also create a directory where people can go and find resources to just develop a sense of authenticity. And also AKT WeHo is a fitness studio similar to kind of like Barry's Bootcamp, but more of, I guess, like a boutique aspect of it. I'll find out more later this week. But we're going to be putting on an event possibly this next weekend during LA Pride, where people can go do like a physical activity. They do yoga, I believe, high intensity interval training, things like that. And so we're going to be offering a class where people can take and then transition into a therapy Q&A where whatever came up for them during that session, they can maybe ask questions and kind of get direction as to what's happening with that. So
love that.
Yeah.
Thank you. And all that information, audience, is on my host page for this show's information. So all of those handles are there, and all the information about those organizations are there as well. Nick, any last thoughts?
This is a great opportunity, I think, that you've been given me. So I think hopefully, like you mentioned throughout the show, I think if you are experiencing similar things that I've kind of expressed, something that I've discussed, and you've been really kind of on the fence about therapy, I think it's important, if you're still not ready for therapy, maybe check out some support groups. The Trevor Project is also important. They help. It's more of like a crisis hotline for gay youth. They're extremely critical and
They
crucial.
focus on suicidal intention, right?
Yeah.
Am I correct about that?
Yep.
Yeah.
So if you're struggling with that, know that the Trevor Project is anonymous. There's support groups that you can find on like Psychology Today. But I think that, anything that will help you gain a better sense of who you are and a sense of community, I think is going to be better than nothing. So hopefully that helps point people in the right direction.
Speaking of community, everybody, please follow Nick on his Instagram handle, which is underneath his video there. So please follow him for community that you're seeking out.
Okay.
Thank you, Nick, so much for being on the show. I appreciate it. And for the audience, my truest passion really is for everybody to awaken their truth and step into their most authentic self. So these conversations and the guests that I bring on the show are extremely important to me, and they're very, very much planned and very, very much on purpose, because I want to bring on people that can support you in your particular area. I, of course, am a coach too, and I focus, on a certain group of people, but then I have people like Nick come on that focus on, on his community. So it really, it is all about you coming into a place of loving and accepting yourself fully. And so if any of us here and any of my guests on my show can support you in doing that, please reach out to us. We're here for you. You are not alone. You are absolutely perfect the way that you are. Let us support you in understanding that and coming to that realization yourself. With so much gratitude, love, blessings, and peace for listening, and to you, Nick, for being on the show. I appreciate you and all the work that you're doing. And I hope the show was enjoyable to you, and thank you everybody so much for listening. Thank you for listening to Awaken Your Truth with me, RiTika Rose. I hope that you heard something today that sparked a shift in your perspective to free your mind, heal your life, and embody your power. The world needs love, acceptance, togetherness, and belonging. My hope is to be a contributing force towards the new world we need to create together. If each of us can awaken our truth and live with more empathy and authenticity, that shift will radiate. Spread the word and tune in next time for more conscious dialogues of healing and transformation on Transformation Talk Radio and Awaken Your Truth with RiTika Rose on YouTube and across all podcast stations. For more information about how to work with me, please visit RiTikaRose.com.